Good morning. Today we'll be covering epidemiology of accidents and injuries. It is one of the most important issue here in the present day. When we cover the non-communicable diseases, we talk about the accidents and injuries as one of the major causes of this thing. Now comes the definition. The definitions of the injuries and accidents is unexpected occurrences which are unplanned, which may involve injury. WHO 1956, that is unpremeditated event resulting in recognizable damage occurring in a sequence of events which usually produce unintended injury, death, or property damage. Here you have to focus on this word, that is unintended. It is always unintended. Major epidemic now is happening after the communicable disease. It is the accidents and injuries, another injury, and it is a part and parcel of the technical progress which we have made in the present world, and it is going to increase, and we have to take those precautions, and subsequently we have to take those measures of prevention like any other preventable non-communicable. See, the accidents follow a typical pattern. That is a typical epidemiological pattern. When I talk about epidemiological, that is time, place, person. On these things, we have to talk in those terms only. Thus, again, the natural history, that is agent, host, environment, they are also applicable here. Agent, and then age-specific pattern. The particular time, particular age, they are more prone, and particular time of the days also. And then comes the week month, the weekdays or the weekend days or like that. And for a particular locality, some people are more prone for the accidents. Of course, the alcohol and substance abuse we cannot ignore. Now, day by day, we are facing the problem of alcohol abuse, and as well as drug abuse is also coming up in a big way. Although governments have taken the adequate measures, however, this problem is there. The most important thing is the accidents, majority of them are preventable, if not all, the majority of them are preventable. Okay. Now, again, when we talk in terms of epidemiology, before that, we have to measure the problem. That is the mortality. Mortality in the sense that we are not talking in terms of, you can say, the incidence or a particular thing. Here, we have to think of the proportional mortality. That is number of total deaths and how much proportion is contributed by the accidents. That is, or another way is looking at the deaths per million. Then another thing is they are killed. Now the question is, what will be defined as an accidental death? Any death occurring within 30 days of the accident which is occurred, which is taken as this. Why? The question is, some people do not die immediately, and the victims they die after some times, and it has to be counted against that. Now, another thing is the case fatality ratio, the rates, that is per kilometer. That is another method. That is, see, the transportation in different country to country vary. The number of road, that network of road is there. Some people have large number of large networks are also there, and accidents also they tend to be more. When the small road networks are there, then limited movement is there. So this again becomes a denominator important. That's per kilometer or per kilometer passengers. Now, deaths of the occupants, that is per 1000 vehicle per year, that is another. Then morbidity figures, serious injuries and the simple injuries. While we talk about accidents, we normally take into account the deaths only. That is incorrect, because quite a few people sustain severe injuries, serious injuries are there, and the simple injuries are also there. That is also resulting into the loss of work hours. As per the abbreviated injury scale, it has to be taken. Underreporting and no reporting is also an issue that is there, because quite a few accidents are not reported. Or underreporting is quite often the person doesn't write, the particular agency is not writing the report for their own reasons. That is also there. Now, the disability, that is another issue which has to be covered. That is the permanent disability and temporary disability. Because again, it is the permanent disability, then it has to be taken in terms of two things. One, when the permanent disability, that means loss of job. And another thing, for the insurance company point of view, the giving the compensation has to be given. And the temporary loss of disability, of course, it is there. Again, the loss of wages is there. A worker meets an accident, and loss of wages, the temporary or disability may be there. Now come the partial disability and total disability we have to think of. Again, it has to be quantified. That is 20%, 30%, 100% disability. Say, for example, loss of eyes. Loss of vision, complete vision is there. That's a total disability, because what happens in that particular context, the person will lose the earning potential totally. And the loss of one limb or two limb or whatever, he may be rehabilitated. It may be again partial disability there. Then then the psychological and social disability is another dimension which is there. And of course, now we talk about the ICD International Classification of Diseases, try to cover the disability and handicap, like that we'll cover some different places, the impairment, disability and handicap and all that. Those terms we have to think of. But disability is there and it has been measured. Now 2008 figures, it is the accidents, the fourth leading cause of death across the world. If I say across the world, across the world for all the countries, that is industrial world as well as developing world both. Then injuries alone constitute almost about 9% of the total deaths. 9% is quite a big figure, because injury is a fatal injury, that is fatal accidents. If all the disabilities in the world are covered, in that case 16% are exclusively due to injuries are there. Now here there are two things we have to cover now. Death is something different, and large number of people do not die, but they sustain some kind of disability which is resulting into handicap. That comes to approximately 16%. That is, loss of wages is one of the most important things to be considered. Injury is a major cause of death among 15 to 24 age group. Naturally, in this particular case, that is adolescent 15 and the young adults, those who have started working, those who have started driving. 15 to 24 is the most vulnerable group is there. That maturity level is not there. Adolescent 15, 16, 17, adolescent person is there, and of course person, young man who has taken up a job, bought a motorcycle or a car, driving for the first time. The social responsibility, road responsibility, there's certain things which develop after some time after the experience, these things come, but the most vulnerable group is the 15 to 24 age group. Then comes the Indian scenario. Indian scenario is basically agro-related industries are there, because 60 to 70% people, even today, 60 to 70% population village and agrarian economy. Still India, although notwithstanding the industrialization, still it continues to be a agri-related industry. Urbanization and mechanization in a few decades resulted in the steep rise of accidents. And other factors are the question is the vulnerable are the skilled workers and untrained and skilled workers. The people moving from the village setting to the from village setting to urban settings and getting into the jobs and industry, the unskilled workers. And of course, the responsibility, the industry is also important. If the poor safety measures are there, implementation part is not rigid implementation. The enforcement agencies which are supposed to enforce safety measures, if they fall short somewhere, definitely the price has to be paid by the victim. Victims are the young workers who are ill trained. At the same time, the safety measures are also not there, so they are the people who pay the price. Then there are poisonous substances, and alcohol consumption is one of the things. It is on the rise. It is there in the village setting or the urban spatial setting, especially the industrial towns. It is definitely on the rise. There's the regular income, and people are lonely. People are there, and they turn to alcohol and all. And of course, in this accident, the most important thing is the loss of the earning potential of the person. That is very important, and the loss to the family. In the world scenario, approximately 1.24 million deaths of traffic-related deaths alone per year occurring. In India, you can see the figure is not less. It is something like 1.75 lakh. That is quite a bit of figure. And here, world scenario is 1.24 million is there. Well, this is where India gives a very major contribution. It's almost about 1.75 lakh. For every traffic-related death, there are 20 to 50. There are non-fatal injuries. See what happens when the death occurs, we highlight basically the deaths only. Well, actually, see, there are 20 to 50 non-fatal injuries also occur, and these non-fatal injuries they contribute large figure in the terms of, you can say, loss of wages, loss of days, man days wasted at the workforce. For every traffic-related, there are 10 to 20 serious injuries that are occurring, needing hospitalization and medical attention. Now let's recapitulate. In every traffic-related death, about 20 to 50 non-fatal injuries, in the sense that passengers are there, pedestrians are there, the people who are traveling in the vehicle, they get injured, that is there. And for traffic here, also serious injuries are almost 10 to 20. So actually the number of actually accident injuries sustained, hardly about 10% people die, but other people suffer the injuries, and due to that, disability and handicap is also there. And this is a health system, it is a load on the health system. Almost 30% of traffic deaths among the under 25 individuals. So under 25, the younger population are the most important victims. Then comes male-female ratio is 3 is to 1. Obviously, the even in a setup like India, the male population is important because they are still the major workforce. Females are contributing, but the question is still the less, so that proportion is understandable. At the same time, females are more responsible, and the males see rash driving. You can say effect of drug, effect of alcohol is more common. Whatever scenario you may call this, but scenario changing very soon. Then pedestrians like cyclists and the motorcycle riders are the worst affected. There are 46% of deaths are among the pedestrians, motorcycle riders, and the two-wheeler drivers. One more thing is the not using helmet is one of the reasons. See, when you are going with a car or three-wheelers, you are almost protected. While pedestrian motorcycle riders are most importantly affected because for a simple reason, some person falls. And if not wearing the helmet in this, if head injury is there, is one of the reasons. Now come the developing countries. The low income group are the worst affected in the developing countries, and poor safety measures are there, not a bit putting on helmet, poor condition of the two-wheeler, and poor implementation of the regulations, jumping the traffic light, one of the most common cause. But in India, as I told you, the Indian deaths are approximately 1.75 lakhs per year, approximately. In 2011, total 4,43,000 recorded accidents reported. It is again, let's understand it's a gross underreporting. Most of the accidents are not reported. While actually it has happened, we are talking in terms of prevention. 100% reporting definitely will give the correct picture what is actually happening on the ground. Now, although deaths per 1,000 vehicles is on decline, that is another measure. That's how we measure. But total 24% deaths of motorcycle and two-wheelers riders. That's another very important. Then time month distribution. Maximum deaths occur during the month of Jan and May. Why? Now let's analyze it, especially in the North India where the fog is a very common problem. I don't know why this may be one of the reasons keep accidents during the month of Jan is important. May there. Then maximum deaths occur between the 6 to 9 p.m. It is there, person is tired, working, coming back from the home or coming back from the shop, absolutely tired, and some kind of misjudgment is there. Then traffic load in India, that's approximately 25 million vehicles are manufactured every year coming on the road in India. That is the scenario. Even during after the post-COVID, just see the figures 2.2 vehicle to 2021. Approximately 2.25 million, 21 million vehicles have been registered. That means 2.1 crore. Despite this COVID, these many vehicles have been registered. Now that means sale is there and people are coming on the ground, on the roads. Now 80% are two-wheelers, remaining two-wheelers and three-wheelers, trucks and all these things. So the major part of the contribution is the among the accidents in the vehicles. Among the vehicles, also the most important part is the that is the two-wheelers is there. So two-wheelers one of the most vulnerable group. Now, risk factor of the traffic accidents. The speed is the most dangerous factor and the most affected are the pedestrians. If the vehicle hits a speed of 30 km per hour, speed is 90% chances of survival are there, and if it is less than 30. So definitely speed is one of the factors. And as the speed goes up, the chances, the proportionately chances of death rise proportionately. And say about say 45 kilometers per hour speed is there, 50% chances of survival. And if accident occurs on 30 km per hour speed limit zone will save many lives. That is very obvious. Drink related another common factor, particularly the blood alcohol content is more than 0.04 gram, that is approximately say 40 milligram less than that per deciliter, that is 40 milligram percent plus. The high danger starts somewhere 40 milligram percent. Because what happens, it impairs the judgment of driving, and especially the person is on two-wheeler, it becomes more vulnerable. At the same time, the pedestrian who is walking nearby, he also becomes more vulnerable to them. Now, simple alcohol sobriety check points on certain strict implementation will definitely reduce by the alcohol related suppose crashes by about 20%, but the implementation is very important. You need an equipment, a dedicated police staff for this purpose. Sobriety check, that is breath check is there. And that will simply, it has been found in the other countries that reduction of deaths by about 20%. Use of motorcycle crash helmets will reduce the death by 40% and severe injuries by 70%. Important, severe injuries also important, we cannot ignore that, but the death rate decline is something like 40% decline just by using the crash helmet, and 20% by the sobriety checks and the alcohol checks. In that case, it was quite a big. Enforcement will result in almost 90% compliance is there. In that case, you can have it. Proper quality in the crash helmet is also important. Poor quality is as good as no helmets. Another important, because roadside people are selling helmets by the roadside. The cost is something like 150, and good helmet is costing about 1000 rupees, 1200 rupees. Some people can't afford it. Some people are reasonably good quality of helmet availability is again a very important thing, and more so for this thing. But the question, the cheaper helmets are also available that has got no value because that helmet itself will break. The four belts, safety belt and the child restraint, two more important measures reduce risk by about 40 to 50%. The safety belt is one of them. Then airbags. Nowadays, the new vehicles, it has become more compulsory to use airbags. And for the front seat riders, about 25 to 75%. For the back seat riders, the risk death will come down. Now, question is ki nowadays newer models of the cars, now they are using the front belts. Front, they are using cars. Safety belts are there. Of course, airbag has also enhanced the safety margin of the four-wheeler vehicle. On the other hand, backside also they are having the safety belts are there. Child restraint is a single measure will reduce the deaths by 30% because there it's very obvious. Distraction while driving avoidable at every cost. Distraction in the sense that some people are putting television, some people are listening to loud music. These are all working as a distraction only, and that will definitely bring down the, like talking on the telephone, talking on the mobile, using the headphone and other things which are there. They're using some, watching some television, watching some, listening to loud music. Definitely, these are avoidable distraction. Will definitely reduce the mortality due to accidents. The mobile phone, the most dangerous habit is longer distances, more brake, lane changing, gear change, and traffic signal response. Everything is impaired, and the text message is texting the message while driving. Then there are four times chances of accident. Same is the case of Bluetooth. Hand free sets are also there. Then legislative measures. Education is the only preventable measure is there. Now, problems of developing countries. No safe lane for pedestrians, cyclists are there. Of course, it is safe lanes are for pedestrians. The safe lane is there definitely, but more often than not, it is illegal sort of occupation by the luggage of the drivers, and all these people are pedestrian. The cyclists, they are more or less occupied. Then the lanes which are there, the free lanes which are there, the service roads are there. More often than not, service roads are occupied. Encroachment by the footpaths and movements, and mixing of the traffic, that is the various speed. That in India is a bigger problem because when they adjacent to the village, bullock carts is there, pet animals are there, tractors, and using the same road, they are using the same road. Even that parali, whatever that after the cutting of the after the harvesting season, the parali that is there, that carrying in the full overloaded, and poorly maintained vehicles. Of course, they are overloading the buses, the public transport vehicle. The bus is carrying something a capacity of say 50 or so. They are carrying 70, 80 buses tilting to one side, left side, other side. Some people are sitting on the top of the bus and all that. And poor lighting and poor design of this thing is important. And this another thing is unusual behavior of the road rage, peculiarities of developing nations. Southeast Asian countries, 70% deaths are in rural and semi-urban areas, not in urban areas. Which is very strange, because Southeast Asian countries, what is important, the road jams are there in this particular thing is very important thing. While in the imagine it's unimaginable, but this is what is happening. The semi-urban areas, the rural areas, more accidents and deaths are there. Then economic loss is again too much reduced due to productivity and the man days lost. Then multifactorial, man versus environment, but 90% is human cause and poorly understood psychological factors. That is there. Let's understand the human factors are again very important in the term. Now, how do we prevent? Now, to sum it up, I will say something. The accidents do not happen. Accidents are caused because wherever there, when it talks about agent host, environment is there. Environment is another thing. Basically, the human error and human behavior is more responsible, and the legislation and strict enforcement of legislation is again very important. Like say for example, alcohol testing, breath test for alcohol will definitely reduce eyesight. Now question is, if there is some kind of fear or some kind of you can say restraint is there in their behavior, they can be prevented. Then multifactorial causation, hence the intersectoral approach is very important. When I talk about intersectoral approach, that the traffic department is there, department is there, manufacturer is there, safe vehicle manufacturer is there, putting on airbags, putting the safety belts, and use of helmets, and basic data collection, the risk factors, circumstances, chain of events. Police, now police have the statutory duty to investigate for the legal purpose and for the formulating the preventative policies. Reporting system is grossly inadequate. You'll be surprised to know India, as I am saying, estimated deaths are something like 1.75 lakh per year. And as I told you, more than almost about 10 times you can say the serious injuries are there, and almost 20%, almost 20 points are the 20 times are the origin injuries. Now, if you talk like that, in that case, if we say about 1.75 lakh deaths are there, that is 17 to 18 lakh serious injuries are there, and something like 35 to 40 lakh, there is quite a bit of figure. Injuries are there and mostly underreported. So this is one problem is there, but you see, reporting or no reporting, it is an issue. Then data analysis and interpretation is very important countermeasure is there, because once you interpret the data, say Monday morning the accidents are occurring, that the first day of the week, or even the weekend days, that is you have to take more precautions, like Saturday and Sunday when people are drinking and driving possibly, and Monday it is one thing which is there when people have come fresh, possibly may not be there. Like that you have to analyze the data and what hour of the day, say morning hours, you can say people long highways, deaths are occurring between say 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., say the time of dawn. So that is one thing. Another thing is there for 6 to 9, as I have told you, evaluation of the strategies for the prevention. Safety education, you have to start at the school level. Now what is important at the school level, the children have to be taught. Now say for example, the teenager boy is given two-wheeler vehicle. Definitely you are sown the seed for the accidents in future. Somebody's life will suffer or he himself will suffer. Because that is nothing macho about young teenager boy takes a motorcycle and drives, keeps on driving. Now, driver training is first aid training is again important, and it is their training is one thing, and second, the license issue, whether it becomes more or less, it becomes a formality, because there are loophole. People do find out the poor, illiterate drivers, their driving skills are there, he gets the license. Then promotion of the safety measures are also important. That is, we can say airbags are there, helmet is there. Then backside also the belts are there, safety belts are no. Safety belt itself, they will say four-wheelers are concerned. The four-wheeler deaths, almost 50% reduction is possible only by the. Then crash helmets alone will reduce the serious injuries by 30% when it comes to the deaths due to two-wheelers, and deaths by road say 50%, injuries by 30% and deaths by 50%, very important. Then full face integral helmet is more popular. But in Indian tropical weather, it sometimes becomes a problem, because the heat is so much that about 40 degrees Celsius temperature, 42 degree, 45 degrees Celsius, and the person is driving at and the full face integral helmet become very uncomfortable. So the implementation part is, the compliance part is not so good. Some regulations like children below 12 years always on the back seat are there. Then that is in the car for that matter, because they are the most finicky, sometimes more mobile and all this thing. So this there. Then comes the door lock, child lock is more important. Back seat safety belts are important. Laminated high penetration wind screens are also there. Yeah, that is there. Then airbags is, of course, I have mentioned about airbags. Now, alcohol related are almost about 30 to 40% injuries due to alcohol related injuries, and these implementation in Western countries are very important. The breath test is taken, once they taken, it is taken very seriously. In India, very few places they have got equipment, and dedicated police staff is not there, always in a but if it is implemented, in that case, definitely. Then barbiturates, amphetamines, cannabis, that is harsh, and other things are there. Well, it's a generalized method measures. As I told you, that intersectoral coordination is important, because other different agencies have to communicate. Now, planning, organizing, management of special trauma centers is again important. Some people have a trauma medicine now, is a proper now is a branch now, and big hospitals, their trauma centers have opened. Definitely, after the accident occurs, the first hour is considered to be a golden hour. They say golden hour approach. How the first aid is given, how fast the person reaches the trauma centers is managed. Definitely that saves quite a large number of lives. So, but again, it is in bigger cities. Trauma medicine is again a regular postgraduate sort of a curriculum is there now emerged. Now, emergency care transport reaching on time is another thing. Then golden hours. This golden hour concept, as I told you, it has to reach one first hour is very important when the first aid is given on the site and the person reaches the hospital setting. Trauma medicine is another branch which is coming up. Now, elimination of causative factors. Enforcement of law is the most important thing. More than 12-year child should not be driven. The teenager shouldn't be driving the two-wheeler. Then strict implementation of the helmet is there. Then, of course, now rehab services, medical, social, okay, rehab comes later. First thing is the prevention part of it. Rehab is important. When we talk about the accidents, again comes up impairment, disability, and handicap. Handicaps mean loss of job, and the rehab is important. Now, reduce and compensate the disability, again, it's about rehab medicine only. Then accident research is the full-fledged subject which has been going. Accidentology is a new branch of trauma care, surgery, research and treatment. But the most important part is the enforcement of the laws is very important. Laws means especially the teenage children should not be driving. Come what may, they should not be permitted to drive, and this is because once you permit them to drive, you are sowing the seed for future catastrophe. Now, another thing, of course, the seat belt is there, then helmet is there, and not permitting first people without uh, uh, people not permitting to drive with alcohol consumption after alcohol consumption. All these things, strict implementation and the penalties, heavy penalties, they will definitely. Now, summary of the factors. Human factors of the sex is important. Male are more vulnerable. Of course, alcohol, drug is another thing. Then sudden illness, heart attack, eye problem, fatigue, these things are there, but not so important. The psychological experience is important. Risk behavior, poor judgment. Risk behavior in the sense the person not fully trained, driving the vehicle after taking alcohol, after taking drugs, all these things. Decision, even poor perception, family dysfunction, these things, of course, psychological factors. Person is driving on the street, he is affected by these psychological elements are there. Now, psychological elements, how to deal with that's a different issue altogether. All the same, what is more important, the regular training of the extensive training of the drivers is important, and particularly the lorry drivers and the truck heavy motor vehicle drivers, buses and all these things is more important because in this case, life of the others is involved. Not only the person himself, others type in. Then lack of protection, crash, helmet, belts, and all this good quality helmets is important. Environmental factors, when you talk the poor road quality, safety design. Fortunately, in India nowadays, what is happening? The layered highways are there, and good road quality is there. But again, the issue is coming up. The roads are so good, people tend to overspeed also, and the line. People, when the highway is there, you will be surprised to know the huge roads have been prepared. Say people are driving at speeds of 100, is okay, but the judgment is so poor because training level is very poor. That is there. Good roads have been made, so it has become sometimes counterproductive. Good roads means more prone to accident. Then mixing of traffic, of course, in the rural areas when they are there, the mixing of traffic cannot be avoided. What to do now? The rural, sooner or later, what will happen? The Belgadi, some bullock cart is traveling, some of course, how do you stop it? Now, inclement weather is important, especially in the North India. In the month of say November, December, January, February, the fog conditions are there. Fog conditions are difficult to drive. Even to that extent, even the railway traffic is hampered. So, inclement weather can't help it. Then driving of the stolen vehicles. Now, stolen vehicles is another issue which is important because it's a very business going on, flourishing industry in this country. They change the nameplate, they change this thing, and these factors, and then normally what happens is the way they drive, difficult. Then no documentation, trying to evade the checking by police. Again, they overdrive, overspeed because evade the police authorities. And work pressure is again alcohol, drugs, and all this thing. It is there. Then comes the drowning. Now, another important thing is the drowning. If they experience a respiratory impairment due to submission immersion of liquid, slim chances of survival after 2 minutes because what happens, the CNS supply is there. Like we have been talking major part of the accident, but the drowning another important factor of this thing. After 4 minutes of immersion, almost no chance of survival. That is cerebral damage is more or less permanent. Death is reported in 200 across the world, that is approximately 3.6 lakh and constituting almost 10% of the deaths due to injuries. See what happens here, I'm talking about the accident, they cover about 9 to 10%, and out of that 10% is the total due to the drowning. Drowning is the most common cause among injuries and accidents. Okay, then comes the part of it. Let us summarize. Among all deaths, 10% due to injuries only, that is across the world. Out of that, deaths due to injuries, 7% are due to drowning only. 95% of the drowning deaths in poor and low income countries. And Southeast Asian region, including China, contributes 43% of the total drowning deaths. The loss of work is another important, 41% of the total deaths. Disability, loss of ears. Now cut. Figure of drowning is less because it excludes the cataclysms like flash floods. Cataclysm means like Kedarnath tragedy. That is again a drowning only. The flash flood is there, and tsunamis are there. Tsunamis have occurred say earlier part of the century. We have seen tsunami and motorboat mishaps and all these. And these are excluded normally because huge number of cases they are basically disasters only. These are not covered, but drowning is individual. If you consider it is there. Now, the most affected people are under 5 children. The males are the most affected. Okay, now basically they're more employed, free access to the water bodies, and unattended children, unsafe boats, and poor maintenance of ferries and catamarans. See, what is ferries and catamarans are important things are in the southern part of the India. Ferries and catamarans are important modes of transportation. Catamarans is something like a ship, boat, you can say, a huge number of loads it can carry. Now, tourists unfamiliar with the behavior of the local water bodies and some kind of accidents do occur. Like in Indore also, like so many falls are there, but that is where people do and accidents do occur every year. Now, prevention, prevent and restrict access to the unsafe water bodies. Then engineering measures, of course, they are making barriers and safe water zones are there. Safety regulations, of course, they are very important. Then burns, for injuries to skin, fire, radiations, radioactivity, electricity, friction, chemical agent, thermal, liquid, solid flame, all this thing. Worldwide, approximately 250,000, 65,000 deaths occur due to burns only. 11 million people seek medical attention every year. That is most affected parts of the Southeast Asia region. 2.65 deaths, well, figure may vary, maybe that 3 lakh or you can roughly. But now here again you have to see 11 million people are actually affected. Deaths are only 2.65 lakh, I told you, but 11 million is that is something like 1.1 crore. So they are seeking medical attention. And children are most affected. 7 times in low income groups and the developed countries. And most common thing is something like water heater is there, some kind of rod, their heating rod is there, the child is toddler is there. He moves and he puts his finger, he puts his hand in that bucket. Such kind of accidents are very common. Then open fire cooking is again a main cause. Like in the developed countries, what has happened? They have come to the induction cooker. More often the induction cooker, the microwave is there. While India or you can say the South Asian countries, we are still following the conventional cooking. That is, chulha is again still in India. It is very much there, including gas is again open fire cooking, and the burn injuries are more common with the open fire. Now, almost 1 to 9 year children are the most affected, and it is the 11th most common leading cause. Like I told you, accidents is one that is it is the cause, and but burn itself is allowance among the accidents also here again 11th most common cause. It is again affecting the low income group. Occupational exposure to diet, father and poverty, overcrowding, medical condition, alcohol, smoking, and easy access to acids. I see in India it is very common to use acids is very commonly readily available. See, acid victims you must have heard of again that's causing the burns, and that is the reason because it is easy. Regulations are there, but breaking those regulations are getting. And kerosene cooking now unsafe now. Fortunately, the kerosene thing is going out now. More or less, people gas is now available, and 80 to 90% burn accidents occur at the home setting not in the industry. Prevention, the potentially preventable high income group, access to the all such measures, they have got measures for the medical treatment is also there. Then more or less the gas, they are using the cooking gas, not the chula and or conventional kerosene and all this thing. Now higher income group are basically switching over to you can say the induction cooker or the microwave and some extent. So they are about multiple options. But the lower income group are the most affected because still they have to go for the conventional cooking. The intersectoral approach is very important. First, it is most essential. Intersectoral approach means all agencies have to take part on this. Now come the Do's and don'ts. Remove the clothing, be careful, the half-burned garments are there, remove the clothing, that is the treatment part of it, apply cool water. Water application is a very important, single important measure because the burn occurs in this, that is dermis, epidermis. Dermis, what happens if temperature is so high? That will cause the blisters. In that case, applying cool water is a single measure and extinguish the flames by blanket. Water blanket is there and water for chemical guns diluted by water. Chemical guns, obviously the blanket will not work. Water is important. Wrap the body burnt part with a clean cloth. No ice, no back paste application should not be there. It's a very important thing. Ice means what will happen? Ice will cause to vasoconstriction. And the vasoconstriction definitely not required in this case. Do not prick the blisters is another simple thing. Because once the blister is formed, let it remain there for some time because the treatment will be there. Do not, when it goes to medical aid, the blister, once you prick the blister, it will cause a problem for a simple reason because they're more prone to the infections. So do not cause the blister is also protection against the infection. The cause, the global issue again, fatal for globe fall from a high place, that is approximately 4,24,000 falls per year. Global estimates are there, and second leading cause of death after accidents, and 17 million daily hours, that is working hours lost, and there are approximately non-fatal falls are there. That is something it runs into crore, 3 crore 70 lakhs falls every year requiring medical attention. Now 80% falls again the lower income group. The lower income group must have noticed something. The lower income group and Southeast Asian regions are the most affected. Two-thirds of the total falls are in Southeast Asian most because developing countries they have got so many other measures which they have done. Now common situation balcony without terrace, tapping toddler, toddy plucking coconut and flying kites, and with increasing life expectancy, hip, well, that is not exactly a fall. Actually, the hip injury is there. In that case, the person has actually the fracture has occurred because of hip bone fracture. The person has fallen, but although it is mentioned, flying kites is another important thing, in especially the Southeast Asia region. That's India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka and all that. So flying kites is another accident prone, and that excitement, that frenzy for this kite flying in that case there. Then high-rise buildings, of course, workplaces, alcohol, poverty, overcrowding. Then neurocardiac conditions, loss of balance due to medical condition, unsafe working environment. Yes, important with the industry coming up. This has become a very important thing for us. Industries are coming up. Industrialization in the sense that at the part of time of the 1947, that time the number of industries were less. Now, day by day, industrializations occur, urbanization occur. Now that ratio of 80-20 is gone. Now it is coming up to now you can say 60% rural and 40% are the urban population, and more or less it is industry based. Now prevention, the multifaceted problem, intersectoral approach is important. All the in the social welfare department, police department, education department, everyone should be involved in this particular thing, prevention. Safety measures for children are very important. Engineering measures, of course, that is when we talk about the equipment, safety of the equipment, safety measures. Safety measures, a separate department is there. Still, something occurs like Bhopal gas tragedy, like one example can be something somewhere went wrong. The enforcement agency somewhere missed something. That is how it has happened. Now, playground equipment safety is another important thing because yes, it is there. Then windows, grills, wedges are very important. The screening of the home, assessment of the environment, handling bars for the holding in toilet, and all this. Yes, it is a very important thing. See, older population is there nowadays. What is happening? The squatting type, Indian type of latrines are there, and they are taking bath and all this thing. The holding bars are very important because older people getting up from the seat, and if they are taking a bath, getting up becomes a problem. They lose balance here. The holding bars fitted on the walls is a very single important measures in helping the prevention. Then muscle training for the older individuals, quadricep exercise and other things which are there. Muscle training is important. Physiotherapy is important because loss of balance, it is one thing, difficult in getting up from the while squatting on the toilet seat or getting from the bathroom seat. So it is important. So these things are simple measures which will help. Now poisoning. Poisoning is another thing which is very important in this case. In India, approximately 2,50,000 deaths. Across the world, India alone about 28,000 deaths occur. pesticide, kerosene, organ phosphorus compounds, homicidal poisoning, and suicidal poisoning. Most common is the suicidal and accidental. Kerosene is the most important among children because taken by mistake it is taken. Now comes the snake bite. Snake bite, well, conventionally it cannot be taken as the accident, but yes, it is an accident which is unexpected thing. 5 million deaths, bites are reported every year. Only 2.4 million are actual envenomation are there. 2.4 across 94 to 124k deaths every year across the world, and 400k amputations per year. That is the estimated figures. Most affected the Latin America, Africa, Asian region. Again, see, snake bite is Latin America and Africa. Of course, it is from their most dangerous snakes are there, and Southeast Asian region. Africa alone reporting about 12 million cases bites per year. So that's it. The outcome, the mutual multifactorial, so many factors other than actual environment will come to play. Terror, panic, see laceration, wound. See, more often than not, it is the terror and the panic which is important, and it takes most responsible for the more responsible to death. And instant anaphylactic reaction resulting death. Cobra, create vipers, and the different pictures are there. Neurotoxin, cytotoxin. Well, it is a different topic by itself. Now, typical clinical picture, the rattlesnake, the local pain, redness, swelling, extravasation of blood, and perioral tingling and all this thing, hypotension, and neurotoxic poison, that is tosis, dysphagia, diplopia, and respiratory failure, etc. And cobra and viper both. These are typical clinical pictures. That's a different subject. What we are talking here is the cobra, viper both. That's the real. Now, what we are measures to be taken. Now, identify, establish the envenomation. That is snake. If you possible, catch the snake. Look for the extension of the local swelling. Early identification, whether it is actually poisonous, not poisonous, you can make out from the this thing. Another sign that is collapse, hypotension, all these things we have to see. But most important thing is to identify the snake and snake bite, whether it could be poisonous, non-poisonous. Then, of course, these are the other symptoms which are there. First aid. First aid is important. Government of India has issued guidelines in 2007 that reassure 90% snakes are poisonous. Yes, 70% snakes are, I repeat, are non-poisonous. Out of the remaining cases, only 50% are effective in which occurred. That means the bite has occurred, but actually whether it will be responsible for the death of the person is only 50% cases. That too, without treatment. Without treatment, even 50% are will survive, and the immobilization of the limb and the body is important, and no ligatures, no blocking. There are new guidelines which are there, which have come in 2007. Now, alcohol has vasodilator effects, hence it hastens the process of poison absorption, so alcohol should be totally banned. The constrictive clothing should be removed, and do not incise the wound. Initially, earlier it used to be the incise the wound. Now the newer guidelines say there is no incision to be given. Albert Camus, French physician, worked on the Indian cobra in 1896. Animal origin horse sheep vaccine is being prepared. In India, antibodies harvested from the animals like horse, they are possibly there. Then, of course, industrial accidents are there. There are approximately Southeast Asian region. There are approximately 80 million workers in the Southeastern region. 60 to 80% involved in agri and the fisheries occupation. 120 million injuries per year. That is deaths. Data is not reliable. Underreporting there. Rapid industrialization is there. That is there. Now, railway accident is another thing. Approximately 2010, only 30,000 deaths have been reported, out of which say 15 lakh died due to violence. Only Southeast Asia region reported 420k deaths due to violence of the various causes. Another railway accident and another violence. Now, agent host environment same as model same. Now, risk factors, availability weapons, easy alcohol, drug abuse, and etc. They are again responsible for this. Suicide. Yes, suicide is most important cause of across the world. Bangladesh is about 11 per thousand per year, and India it is very high, 36 per 100,000 k, 100k, 100,000 per year. So total works out to be approximately 5 lakh. That is the per year, and practically 389 day per day suicide rate is there in India, measuring that every 3-4 minutes on one person is committing suicide in our country. That's very high figure. Male female ratio is almost you can say male it is more, and 389 suicide rate. Oh my God, that is very high. Now, so we conclude here. I have tried to summarize it. Most of the aspects we've tried to cover. Again, we have to fit it into age and host environment. Most of the accidents, whatever cause, whether it is traffic accident, whether it is drowning, whether it is industrial accident, agricultural accident, we have to understand that factor, that is agent host environment model. We have to try to fit into that model, and what all preventive measures are there. Basically intersectoral approach and legislative measures are important, and intersectoral coordination is important. Legislation is one thing, and implementation, and third most important thing is the education of the children. We have to start the education for the prevention of the, accidents from the childhood only, because that will be cultivated as a habit. If it is not cultivated a habit, or you child drives and adolescent drives, that means he has sown the seeds for the accidents in future. Some unfortunate person will die because of him, or he himself will suffer. So that's very important. Thank you.